Oh, welcome back to the Spiro Avenue Show. Justin Spiro here with you. I'm excited, as I always am, to be with you, but I'm particularly excited tonight because it's a little bit of history around here. Record-breaking. Chris Castellani back, breaking the tie with Tony Paul.
We've had a real back and forth here. I feel like it's Federer and Nadal trading off Grand Slam championships over the last a decade or so. If you want to throw Djokovic in there as well, yeah. And love Tony to death, and we were talking about it in text earlier this week. We got to do a collab at some point.
I'm trying to.
Yeah.
You guys have some beef that I don't know about.
There's no. You know what? It's not beef on my part. It's complete laziness. There's people. I had a. I'll leave out who. I had an athlete who needed some contact info recently from a coworker of mine, and I couldn't bring myself to be like, I don't have his number. Now, eventually, I got it.
Who was trying to get the Portnoy? That's what we want.
It wasn't a Portnoy thing. It was Dana Beers, who's wonderful and who I hung out with in East Lansing last week. But I'm usually not good with that. I have a long time. Like, you're a big Brandon Walker fan,
yeah.
And I ran into him when I was in Baton Rouge, and I'm like, hey man, I know we've been working with you for a year, and I like you a lot, but I've always been too afraid to ask for your number. And he goes, why? And I don't know.
He's the one guy Big Cat seems like a cool guy too. He's one of the guys I would feel most comfortable with. He just doesn't give a shit, like in a good way.
No, I know. But it's a me thing. It's not like, it's not like I viewed him as an intimidating presence. I'm just weird in terms of collecting contact info.
Do you
for some
still
reason.
get starstruck up there? Are you like because you were a huge Stooley is Barstool fan.
Yeah.
Like, when you're next to Portnoy in particular, or Big Cat, like these guys that are so high profile, do you still, even a year plus later, be like, oh shit, I'm like bumping knees with Dave Portnoy? Or is it kind of like old hat?
It's not starstruck. I get, and this is on brand, I get nervous around some of the women, but besides that, as nice as they've all been. But no, not really. No, the one person truly that I think I would get legitimately starstruck if I met him, and I have not been able to, but he currently co-hosts the Starting Nine, would be Jake Arrieta. Just because, in college, that was like my pitcher. He was appointment viewing. Besides that, everyone there's too laid back for me to really be starstruck by it. It's cool, but it's not like I can't believe I'm meeting you thing. I think I've advanced beyond that stage, I think, but give it time. We'll see who else we hire.
Well, speak for yourself, because I'm starstruck in your presence. No matter how much I'm around you, Chris, I remain in awe of your skills. So let's put your skills to work tonight. Mm-hmm. Big game coming up Saturday.
The biggest.
We all know about it. We don't have to do the whole pretext. Oh, they're both 11-0. We understand that. Mm-hmm. I want to get into just where you're at mentally. The DraftKings odds, which is my degenerate app of choice, has it at 7.5, and Ben pulled that earlier today when we were talking to AJ Hawk, Ohio State legend.
Yeah.
So it's been, I've seen it 7 even, but at a worse juice. It's kind of hanging around right there.
It opened at 9, I believe.
It opened higher.
Yeah.
The look-ahead line at the beginning of the year was like 16 or 16.5.
Yeah, 16.5.
It's a huge drop.
Yeah.
So, it's been sliced more than in half. Where's Chris Castellani right now, mentally going in? In my spot, I'm up and down if I'm in this game. I'm talking myself in the winning, losing, in every fashion. Where are you at right now?
It's the most confident I've ever been going into the horseshoe. And I'm still not very confident. I think the last year changed so much. Because last year they made Superman bleed. And now they have an opportunity this year to knock him out. There have been years. Some of them where I've been on the show, a lot of them not. Where I knew they didn't have a snowball's chance in hell of winning that game. The early part of the Rich Rod years, a lot of the Hoke years, though they bizarrely played up pretty good against Ohio State in some of those games, but I never figured that they would win. 2019, when Michigan was 9-2 playing at home, but Ohio State had Justin Fields and Dobbins and Olave, and it's just like this team's this is a death march. Now, in fairness, I was on here last year for this week, and I thought that they would get walloped, and they played out of their minds and won. The way I feel right now, I'm bizarrely calmer. Now, ask me on Saturday. I'll be a nervous wreck. You know this. This is how these things work as fans. But the way I view it is I know Michigan can win this game. Now, a lot of things need to go right. They're going to have to execute their game plan. They're going to have to be substantially better than they were a week ago when they played Illinois. But they've put themselves in position to have a fighter's chance. And right now, that's kind of all I can ask for. I'm not freaking out. And I also think, unlike some other previous years like I brought up, despite being 11-0, this isn't an invincible Ohio State team. I think that there are holes, there are things that you can potentially exploit that could help you win this game, but it's an uphill battle. I think that line is fair at 7.5. So I'm okay with it right now. Like I'm not losing my mind. I'm not going in there thinking I'm about to watch a 4-hour funeral. They can win this game, and at this point, given the way things have gone over the last, especially 2 years ago when there were questions about whether or not this guy should even be coaching here. I'm okay with where they're at. It won't make a loss any less heartbreaking, but it would make a win that much more euphoric.
Touching on last week briefly, because you said they have to play much better than the Illinois showing, which I think goes without saying. You have, as a sports fan, when you're a big favorite at home in particular, those scares where, okay, you're scared, you're down, maybe you're a little concerned, but deep down you feel like you're going to pull it out.
Yes.
Where were you in that game? Was there a point in the fourth quarter where you thought, we're not okay?
Yeah, there were 1,000,000 points. Yes.
So you were, because there were some of that on Twitter, like, oh, calm down, everything's fine. I was paying more attention to my own problems in East Lansing.
Right.
I was like checking in on every fourth play, but from what I saw,
every 20-yard field goal.
Yeah, stop it. So,
I had to throw it out there.
Can you kick? What's your eligibility? We'll get you out there.
We'll see. Yeah.
We can't do much worse than that. But so I take my opinion with a grain of salt because I was watching every fourth or fifth play. But from what I was watching in the flow of the game, I honestly thought Illinois was going to finish that off. I
did too.
It was not like, the favorite will come back. I thought they had you. So you were kind of in that same boat.
And this is where I'm going to balance it out. Michigan played their first 10 games of the year, and they played bad in a lot of first halves, and that's going to be something they're going to need to correct on Saturday, and we'll talk about it in a minute. But there was never a moment in any of the first 10 games, trailing at halftime against Penn State, trailing at halftime against Rutgers. Iowa tried to make some late random run when they played each other. Down 10-7 against Michigan State in the first or second quarter. There was never truly a moment in which I said they're losing this game. The Illinois one, and I was in, not to reveal too much information, but I don't think he'll care. I was in a group chat with our friend Anthony Broom, and I said, I think we're losing this game. And now a huge reason for that was the Blake Corum injury. But beyond that, and I've had a lot of people, fight me on this. I thought JJ played bad. That was the big thing for me.
Who's fighting you? Sorry.
I'll tell you why.
Who's fighting you on that?
I'll tell you why.
He was horrible.
I'm with you, and I like
what I saw,
and I like JJ, and I have defended him more than anyone, and we'll talk schematically why I think that there's been some unjust criticism. He missed about 3 touchdowns. And on the other side, the receivers missed about 3 touchdowns. It was not all him. I can't knock him necessarily for that. Ronnie Bell had a pass he could have caught. Gash had a screen pass that would have been a touchdown. The best throw he made all day was the 4th down play to Andrell Anthony that he thought was a free play. Perfect pass, best throw of the day, dropped it. I think that the credit comes from the fact they had 2 4th downs that if they not converted them would have lost them the game. He did make those throws. Now, to me, they were easy throws in the flat. They were, the level of difficulty was short, but I guess he showed a little bit of moxie. So no, last week was the one where I'm like, dude, this might be the one where they blow it. I thought for 90% of that game they were outplayed, and I thought Bielema coached a great game. They were tough. It was almost like a guilty feeling because I'm like, man, they might have just won a game where they got outplayed. And thankfully Jake Moody is God and was putting, is the best kicker in the country and saved them. But all the issues that we talked about with Michigan throughout this season plagued them last weekend. Not putting the ball in the end zone when you get to the red zone. Defense, I think for the most part was fine, but bad first halves. That stuff, much like last year when we came into this game, needs to be corrected if they want to win on Saturday. It's obvious, and I've been the first to admit to it. This has been an easy schedule. Okay, they've played one team two. I'll say 2. teams this year where I came into the game thinking, yeah, there's a pathway to them maybe losing. One was Iowa on the road just because Kinnick drives me nuts. Now, Iowa's offense is, they might as well be running the wishbone at this point. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And Penn State. And they steamrolled both of them. But in terms of mid-game, I was scared they were losing. I really was. I can't be like... I posted the reaction of Moody making that last field goal where I fell to the ground being like, whew, okay, survival. Now, had they have lost, it kind of wouldn't have mattered that much. Like, if they beat Ohio State this week anyway, they're in the playoff. But it would have been a heavy disappointment. And I'm not a believer, but for the record, in trap games. I think that's kind of an overused narrative. You either play a good football game or you don't. I don't think there was any guy in that team who's like, I'm not going to play as hard this week because next week's Ohio State.
I don't know. You're talking to a Michigan State fan. Like, we defined trap game like since 2001 at least, maybe longer. We always lose our quote-unquote trap games.
Yeah, I know. That was a scary game. I mean, that was the most tense Michigan game I've seen since the Ohio State game last year. There were many a moment. If they don't convert one of those 2 fourth downs, they're 10-1 right now.
I had the Michigan-Illinois game on my laptop, like on the little side table to the right, and Michigan State on the big screen. And I just looked to my right, and the timestamp may be a little off, but Illinois was driving, already leading, and it was, I think, a first down. They took a shot in the end zone. Right when I turned, it was like the ball was in the air.
Yeah.
And they missed a receiver in the end zone to go up 2 scores, like 5 minutes left. That's pretty much game over.
Well, and the play of the game that's gotten way overlooked was that it was a 4th and 7. DeVito got out of the pocket, and Turner made an unbelievable tackle that saved the first down and probably saved the game. Like, they needed to do about 10 things in the fourth quarter of that game just to put themselves in position to get Jake Moody a shot to make that field goal. So, no, it was remarkably nerve-wracking.
The game, I think, furthered to use the overused term, narrative. That this is a team that has played a weak schedule. This is a flawed team that is good. There's no bad 11-0 team. But
no, I'm sorry to cut you.
No, go ahead.
I think this team is better than they were last year.
I disagree. That pass rush with those 2 dudes. I mean, Hutch and Ojabo.
Yeah, but they've done kind of this Moneyball thing, man, where they've done it by committee this year. You had those 2 guys, but it's a top 5 defense in the country again. And I think their secondary is better.
They're good. They don't scare me. The defense doesn't scare me at all. They're more just kind of all right. They're solid. They're not great. They don't have the playmakers on that side of the ball. In a weird way, I'm not ready to say I was wrong about McNamara McCarthy. I think you had to make the switch. But maybe McNamara was a better Jim Harbaugh system quarterback. Maybe I was wrong. I'm not ready to go there yet.
No, I don't. I can't go there either.
I'm not saying I'm there. I'm just the door is creaked open. But that aside,
we can get back to that.
That game certainly, because Illinois is not a bad team, but they're no great shakes.
No, I think Bielema's going to do a really good job there.
He's underrated. Yeah, he had a flame out in Arkansas, and everyone overreacted.
Only coach in the Big Ten with 3 Big Ten conference titles.
Yeah, he was rolling at Wisconsin. Yeah,
which is why it surprised me he left. But again, conversation for another day.
SEC, they all like that.
Yeah, anyway, right. Yeah, exactly.
But it certainly did not help the naysayers of Michigan and the people tripping on the schedule. Ohio State has some of these same problems. So today, Valenti and Rico were talking about this exact concept.
Was this the Spider-Man meme thing that he...
Well, yeah, we didn't grab that part of it.
Okay.
Don't jump the gun, Chris. Not everyone watches like you and I do with these YouTube clips.
Okay,
but
you're right. It is your show.
A clip from the same segment, though, where he's talking about, and both of them are talking about, and not just Michigan, Ohio State too. The B-plus teams they're not so great. Let's take a look at that.
This clip is from The Valenti Show with Rico and was edited brilliantly by Evan Jenkins. It's the property of Odyssey and should not be seen by anyone ever.
Can Michigan fans not put OSU on a pedestal? Can we not act like somehow these 2 teams are different? They're actually quite similar in that I don't think either of them special. And I may have to walk back what I thought was going to be a pretty solid take about 6 weeks ago. I thought the winner of this game was going to win the Natty. But all these 2 teams have done is fail to impress at every turn.
We've been sold a bill of goods that maybe these two teams aren't as good as Fox has hyped them up to be the entire season.
And by the way, the kid you put in there is not special. Like, that's the most underreported thing on the planet. Now, maybe JJ has a coming out party in C-Bus and becomes a legend. That's why we play the games. But I've seen next to nothing from him.
All right, Chris, where do you land on this? Are
Okay.
you in 2006 territory, 1 versus 2, two Titans, the two best teams in college football clashing head-to-head in Columbus? Or is this more kind of Spider-Man meme like Valenti's saying, two, flawed teams, good but flawed?
I never agreed with his take that the winner of the national championship was one of those two teams. Right? Georgia looks like they have 15 guys in the field when they play defense. I think they run away with this relatively easily. Last year's Michigan team was the best team they'd had since they'd won the national championship in '97, and Georgia made them look like, I always use this analogy, like Bishop Sycamore. It was just not, that game was over on the first play when Georgia ran for 8 yards. So I never bought into that. In terms of not being impressive, I know I just complained about the Illinois game, but look at the schedule. What else did you want them to do? They've shit-pumped every team that they've played other than Illinois last week. And Maryland. Maryland was a close game, but that was a 2-touchdown game where Maryland scored with like 30 seconds left. So the score may have not been a little bit more deceiving, but they are impressive teams. That's what annoys me. Now, by impressive, if your barometer for impressive is can you roll and win the national championship, are you 2019 LSU? Then okay, sure, but like I don't buy into that. Like look at how many teams in college football this year that were highly ranked teams coming into the year have either slipped up in a road game, a big game, or just had bad years. Texas A&M was in the top 5 coming into this season. Look at what they're doing. Jimbo Fisher's probably might get his ass shit canned at some point in the next few years. So I don't agree with the idea that they're not impressive. I think it is fair to say that Michigan's peak game was Penn State, and they probably have not played as well since that game. And Ohio State earlier in the year looked like world beaters. The Northwestern game was a weird one. Last week against Maryland was a weird one. But I don't agree with the notion that these teams aren't impressive. But they've won every game. That part I disagree with. But I do agree to a certain extent that over the latter portion of the year, these two teams that at one point looked like they could be national championship contenders have not played nearly as well as they did earlier in the season.
I agree with you on Georgia. I don't know why people were off on them to begin with. I understand they graduated half their defense. Look at the guys
and
that
somehow got better.
Well, the guys that stepped in were great, are supposed to be great.
They're so deep, man.
They're loaded. So I'm with you on that. But take Georgia out of it for the sake of argument.
Okay.
Let's give Valenti the benefit of the doubt that he's not saying that Michigan is a complete fraud, or and same thing for Ohio State, because he said Spider-Man meme. So everything he said about Michigan, he was kind of doubling down.
Right, no, he was not saying that one team has a strategic edge, like a heavy strategic edge over the other. He was being pretty fair with that assessment. Yes.
Yes. So, but take Georgia out of it. Michigan wins on Saturday, and probably wins in Indy, because I consider that virtually a bye. No matter who wins on Saturday.
If it goes like it did last year, then
that division is a joke.
That's rough. Yes.
Let's say, I'm not going to get into, if this happens, that happens. Just take my word for it. You don't play Georgia in the first game. You play one of the other teams.
Because you would be 2, so you'd probably play TCU,
probably,
or USC, or LSU if they pull off the impossible.
Long story short, though, does anybody in this field scare you other than Georgia? Do you feel that Michigan would be a solid bet to beat anybody but Georgia?
No.
You think they are just Big Ten good, basically?
No, I think I think they can beat any team if they play their best other than Georgia. But they could lose to USC.
Not that they're a lock to win. I'm just saying. So you would feel pretty good going into any other opponent, is what I'm saying.
If they made the playoff, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I really like this Michigan team. I've liked them all year. This is just because I'm trepidatious going into a place that they haven't won at since I was 5 years old. Doesn't mean that I don't believe in the personnel on this team, the talent on this team. I think that there will need to be changes in regards to their overall execution in regards to game plan. But the only team that I look at in college football right now where I say I think if Michigan played them 10 times, I don't know if they could beat them as Georgia. I think Michigan can beat USC. I think Michigan is better than TCU. I know they keep winning, but there's been kind of like this got to bring it around to baseball, like this '06 Tigers thing with them, where it's just like the ball's just bouncing their way a lot. Not to say that they're bad, but I think that they could beat LSU. So no, I mean they would absolutely, if they made the playoff, have a great opportunity to at least play for the national championship. And then if Harbaugh coaches a masterpiece, maybe you win the whole thing.
I love Lincoln Riley. That defense, I mean, it is appallingly bad.
It is.
It's like the USC defense. The other team's in the end zone in like 4 plays. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
I've bet on them 3 times. they're actually 2-1 for me, so it's not like they burned me a bunch of times, but every time they go up 10 or 14 in the fourth quarter, you're like, all right, shit, 6 minutes left, 2-score lead. The other team scores a touchdown in like a minute.
Yeah, but
I think Michigan would beat USC is what I'm saying.
Because I think they would have, like you just brought up with the defense, I do think they would have the potential to dominate the line of scrimmage. But
no potential, they would.
Yeah, I think right now Caleb Williams is the best player in college football. So,
I agree.
Yeah, I think it's his Heisman to lose, especially after last week. And we were tweeting back and forth about it with that game. But no, so that's always what scares me. And we've seen it in college football before, where I'll call it the Vince Young principle. You can have a team that is completely loaded. If you have a quarterback that just plays out of his mind, I don't care how well you play, you can lose that game.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm with you on. Definitely USC and TCU. I haven't really watched LSU. I know what their resume is. I know what
they're good.
I know they got a tough road. I don't know if I've watched like an entire LSU game.
I was at entire LSU.
You have a charmed lifestyle.
Well,
I just watch these things on TV.
I spent a lot of money to do it, but yes, I did.
You have a charmed lifestyle.
But give it 2 weeks.
People throwing their underwear at you on the street and stuff.
Well, maybe not in Baton Rouge, but yeah. No, I was very impressed by him when I saw him. And I think and our boy Brandon did a whole segment about this where LSU fans are the only maybe not the only fans. I think Michigan probably falls into this camp too, who were like adamant their coach should be fired after the first game. And I'm like, dude, Brian Kelly's won everywhere. And they ended up slipping up against another team, but it throws a wrench in everything if they somehow upset Georgia.
Oh yeah, and it's not impossible. They have the horses, they
always do. Jane Daniels had an excellent year. The defense has improved a ton. That would be. They
have a hell of a coach. I mean, you mentioned
they do. I that was, and I know he turned himself into a meme with the fake accent and shit like that. But that was, But beyond that, no, they could do it. And that would, at that point, it's. Everything becomes chaos. But right now Georgia's the only team where I can definitively say we're not beaten.
Speaking of wanting coaches fired, I was hanging on to this ship by just one finger. I was in the water but not fully submerged.
Yeah.
But I did not fully go to Harbaugh should be fired. I was so close. You and Anthony Broom were basically there. Yeah. You said it explicitly. He said,
and I said it on your show.
Yeah. So let's run that. You've already seen a couple of these because I
knew
laughing.
You were going with this clip, man.
When I pulled these, it was just in our group thread because I thought it was funny. But I'm like, this is good. Let's
do it. I'll eat the crow.
I make myself look bad too. All right, Ben, let's roll that.
Yeah, let's do it.
So your boy here, who you love, who you forgive for his trespasses, as he forgives those who trespassed against him, said that Jim Harbaugh was the best hire in the state of Michigan in the history of sports. Pro, college, high school, middle school, girls volleyball. That was my position. And I couldn't have been more wrong. Is he done? And do you want him gone?
I would have let him go at halftime of the Michigan State game last year.
Wow. So you're already in overtime of his.
Yeah,
he's already been here too long.
And Michigan State played an amazing game. But making Rocky Lombardi look like Pat fucking Mahomes to me is unforgivable.
Do you see a path where this program can compete with Ohio State within 5 years? I mean, are they going to win once in the next 5 years in that game?
It's hard to say. I mean, it wouldn't have happened this year. I think we're all pretty confident in saying that.
Yes.
And then next year, probably not. So then you're talking about 3 years from now.
I don't see it. It's just
that I think the window closed for them.
So, I mean, Anthony and I say, and that was in 2020.
Poor Broom catching strays in the middle of this episode.
Well, I put myself under the gun,
I
too.
know, yeah.
I mean, Anthony and I are sitting there saying, I don't see how they win one in the next 5, and they won the next game after that conversation. You wanted Harbaugh gone. I said in a clip in that segment, but we didn't include it, that I'm still not there yet.
Okay.
But this was it for him. This was the last straw. He has to have not just beat Ohio State in 21, but have a very good year. But I also said I didn't think that was going to happen. So I didn't say fire him. I wanted him to have last year. You were like, he's already here too long. We were wrong, right? I mean, he obviously.
Yeah. What a knucklehead that guy was in that clip.
I think we had a justifiable reason. I mean, how long does this guy get? It was a legitimate gripe, right?
Well, first of all, the most embarrassing part of that clip is the suit. That needs to be step one. Castellani may have been trying to impress a certain girl that he liked at the time, but we can move on beyond that.
Did it work?
You know.
Okay. I know the one you're talking about. I didn't know who we were talking about.
But no, okay. Here's I'll do a full breakdown here because I am big on owning up to being wrong about stuff. We had a big text thread all year where I said the San Diego Padres trade deadline was stupid and it wasn't going to work. Well, guess what? They beat the piss out of the Dodgers and made it to the NLCS. Okay, and I owned up to it. I wrote a whole blog saying I was wrong. Here's the way I look at that. Because we love to do this, not necessarily you, but we love to do this on social media where guy has bad take 2 years ago, it's dug up, and therefore that person was just stupid. The problem with that is there's certain instances and I hate giving this guy attention, Skip Bayless saying that Johnny Manziel was going to be more popular in Cleveland than LeBron ever was. That's dumb in the moment. The take I had when I was on that show was in 21. I think it was May of 2021. Not that it matters. Casey Mize pitched and got rocked against Oakland that day, but that's okay. That's beside the point. In the moment, I had no qualms about that take, and I think that there was a mountain of evidence that I was correct. The Michigan State game in 2020 broke me. That was the one where it's like, because up until that point, I'm like, okay, they're winning most of the games they should win. But now you're starting to slip up in the COVID year against teams you have no right losing to. You're the biggest Michigan State fan, maybe that I know. You have told me a million times, how in God's green earth do we win that game? And not only how did we win that game, how did we dominate Michigan when Mel Tucker was coaching a game on Zoom all week? So that was one that kind of broke me. I believe that 3 things happened that I overlooked when it comes to the Michigan football program. Number 1, unless you're Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, or the elites, the cream of the crop, the COVID year was fugazi. Indiana was a powerhouse. I think that there was a lot of weird stuff that happened that year. I think if you play out that entire season beginning to end with the fans, Michigan, while underwhelming, probably is 7-5 and 8-4. I mean, look at the non-conference schedule they had this year. There's 3 built-in wins there that they probably would have had. Playing at home would have been a lot, made things a lot easier. It reminds me a lot of the 11-seeded Michigan State team in basketball that kind of snuck into the tournament where, maybe the worst Izzo team, but there were circumstances that kind of got in the way. Number 2, and this is something I haven't talked about a whole lot, I believe that there was player leadership issues for a few years. 2018, you can be all, divisive about somebody like Chase Winovich, but the players loved him, and he was a leader in that group. Devin Bush, again, divisive, especially among Spartan fans, great player. I believe that the 2019 and 2020 teams had some knuckleheads on their team, quite frankly. And this is allegedly, but it's allegedly based in a lot of truth. When you have a quarterback who gets pulled from a game when he's down by 17 against Rutgers and is on the sideline saying, I'm going to transfer and drop 50 on you next year, there's clearly some divide in the locker room. So those are 2 things I overlooked. And number 3 is that for the first time, maybe in his life, Jim Harbaugh left his ego at the door because they went out and got coordinators that knew what they were doing. I was never a big Josh Gaddis guy, but Weiss and Moore, I think, have done a fine job with what is an archaic but effective offense with that offensive line. Mike McDonald was the home run hire of home run hires. He saved Jim Harbaugh's career. And they went out and got Jesse Minter, who has essentially run the same defensive scheme, and they have a top 5 defense again. Regardless of whether or not they win this game, I think those 3 things were things that I did not count on being something that could turn the program around. Because, we talk about Anthony all the time, and of course Luke Iardi was a part of the Brewcast. We did videos after every one of those games, podcasts after every one of those games. It was torture, man. I was watching a football team that looked really no different than the worst of the Rich Rod and Hoke years. So while I clearly regret the take and was proven wrong, I don't blame myself for having that opinion in the moment. I still can't. I'm happy that things have changed. Harbaugh will always be a divisive guy. I get it, but I have nothing but praise for the job he's done over the last 2 years here.
It's very true with the hindsight nonsense versus real-time nonsense.
Yeah.
And I mean, you use the ultimate person and purveyor of
I know,
real-time
yeah.
nonsense.
But even I've had takes. Like, I don't believe that I'm a crazy person for believing that Justin Verlander getting 2 years, $50 million after blowing out his arm and Tommy John surgery. At the time, I'm like, oh, dude, I'm glad he's not coming back that Tigers. He was 39 years old coming off of Tommy John, not realizing now. And again, that was a bad take. That's a bad take. Yeah. Not realizing he's the biggest unicorn in the world, and it should have just ponied up.
That's what Tony and I said. We said this is the tapes are out there. This is the one guy I'm not worried about it, because the only guy to have successfully done that at that age was R.A. Dickey. And he's throwing knuckleballs. So it doesn't even count.
Yeah.
So it basically had never been done. Mm-hmm. But Verlander to me was a good bet, and that was proven true.
Right.
But
and he's about to get another one too.
Another big contract, you mean?
Yeah, Mets are going to pony up and give him 3 years.
You think he's going to the Mets? Sure.
Mets or Dodgers. I don't think.
I know that's what Kate wants.
New York, LA,
New York or LA.
Yeah, I mean, I'd kind of like to see him back outside of Detroit. I'd kind of like to see him back in Houston. But, yeah.
So we talked about Harbaugh. Obviously, I want to talk about Ryan Day and Harbaugh here as it relates to them. So I ran through the same thing with AJ earlier today. Ryan Day calls out famously within his own team, but later came out that it was true. He didn't deny it. Calls out Michigan ahead of 2020. Obviously, the COVID game that never happened. This was the Ryan Day quote talking about Michigan. Michigan better hope for a mercy rule because we are going to hang 100 points on them. That was Ryan Day in August of 2020. Now, we know they never ended up playing. Fast forward to the 2021 game, obviously the most recent iteration of this rivalry. Michigan obviously wins, dominates that game at home in Ann Arbor. Jim Harbaugh is asked about this, hey, a little extra motivation with what Ryan Day said, before the last game. Let's roll that Harbaugh quote up there. Let's move on with humble hearts and take the high road. People said stuff that spurred us, sure. Sometimes people that are standing on third base think they hit a triple, but they didn't. That was Harbaugh. I love
that is literally the most Harbaugh quote ever, where he goes, "We're going to be humble, but by the way, go fuck yourself."
Yeah, that's exactly what that was.
That is so. You know what that is? That's the line in Talladega Nights when he keeps saying "with all due respect" and then keeps shit talking like, I'm saying this with all due respect. Like, no, you're not. You don't like. So I.
What was the Donald Trump tweet about Kim Jong-un before they were friends about, I can't believe he called me unhinged and crazy. I would never call him short and fat.
Yeah, yeah. To all the haters and losers, of which there are many, all that shit. Yeah. No, look, here's my thoughts on Ryan Day and about the rivalry as a whole. Because I've had a few takes about this. I have a good friend of mine who legitimately could be on this show, named Nick Olson, who's currently a college baseball coach, who outside of people that I know in media is, to me, the most reliable sports person I know. He's had this take for a while that Urban Meyer was just Jim Harbaugh's boogeyman. That now that he has moved on, that this is his opportunity to prove himself as the definitive coach in the Big Ten. And while I think Ryan Day is an excellent football coach, and I know the guy's gotten he's gone through a lot of shit for kicking kickers and, fingering people on the dance floor. Urban Meyer is one of the 5 best college football coaches of all time.
Yes.
Maybe all it took was him to leave for Harbaugh to fulfill his destiny at Michigan and become the dominant coach, not just in the Big Ten, but maybe the dominant coach, one of the dominant coaches in the country. I don't buy into that because Ohio State recruits too well. But if Michigan wins this game, and if, much like last year, Jim Harbaugh outcoaches Ryan Day, I think it's time we can have that discussion. Maybe it was just as simple as a Meyer leaves and Harbaugh, took over in his rightful spot as the best coach in the Big Ten. Or not rightful spot. That makes it sound, presumptuous.
I know what you mean. But isn't that a cozy blanket, though?
I think, I don't.
What's his bowl record?
I do not agree with the take. And if it was just 11-0 every year, losing to Ohio State or losing to Urban Meyer, I could get that. But the fact is, he's gotten.
Has he ever won a bowl? That's an honest question.
First year. First year won the bowl.
1 in 5 or 6, whatever it is.
Right. And then 1 year they didn't play in a bowl because, thank God. But with that team, Jesus, mercy killed us by canceling the last 3 games. But no, so I don't agree with that. But I do think that there will be some discussions about whether or not that's legitimate if he ends up beating Ryan Day this weekend. Yeah.
And I'm a storyline guy. I like storylines.
Me too.
I don't. I respect analytics and schematics and hey, here's what they're sending on this blitz package. I respect the importance of that.
Mm-hmm.
Not my bag. Not my cup of tea. A big storyline that I'm not even hearing enough of, in my opinion. Okay. We all know the obvious: 11-0, Big Ten, college football.
Right. Yeah.
It goes without saying the rivalry. We get that. The Ryan Day Harbaugh aspect, to me, has been under-discussed. And here's why. Look at the stakes for these two guys. If you're Ryan Day, if you lose, you are 2-2 in a rivalry that was so overwhelmingly in your favor.
Well, actually 1-2. I mean, you can count, if you want to count the COVID year, you can, even though they didn't play. But 19 was his first season.
Seriously? Did I get that wrong? He hasn't legitimately beaten you guys twice already?
No. Now he would have had they played in the COVID year. But
either way,
yeah.
I mean, it's. We'll check that later. I'll take your word for it. Maybe I read that wrong.
Well, because Myers last year was the 62-point drubbing in 18. So
I'm checking the record on that. I've got to check that in real time. But either way, if you end up with what would be either 1-2 or 2-2, either way, in a rivalry that you have completely dominated, or the program has dominated for 20 years before you took over. What does that say about you? Not only did you really, even losing one in the last 20 years is kind of embarrassing. Urban never lost one.
No,
I mean, he was here for almost a decade.
7-0. Yeah,
it's like even losing one is kind of bad to them. If you lose 2 and 2 in a row, what does that say about you? It sort of backs up this whole concept, fair or not, because, narratives matter and perception matters. It backs up the narrative that maybe you were born on third base and thought you had a triple. Now, if Harbaugh loses, it kind of flips back into, what would that make him, since you're the statistician tonight more so than me, 1-7 in that rivalry?
Yeah. Well, what it makes him up to that point, and he's not going anywhere. Well, shit, I'm sure he'll flirt with the NFL again, but what it makes him is John Cooper.
Right.
It makes him the guy who can do it every so often, and who's by no means a bad football coach, but with a few notable exceptions, is just the really good but often never great.
You were right. Fuck. That makes my point even stronger, actually.
I lose sleep over these games, so it's like you can't deny me on this stuff. Like I'm very much aware.
I would never get that stat wrong about a Michigan State coach. So anyone that says we care more about Michigan than our own team, I just debunked that, at least in my case.
The 2018 Ohio State game, Urban's last year. Yeah. That was, and Anthony Broom has spoken about this on your show as well.
Yeah.
That was that was like it's not as bad, but that to me was the football equivalent of the 2013 ALCS. Whereas I cannot believe it was that bad.
Was that revenge tour?
Yes, that was the other problem, is they had the big swinging dicks, and then you go there and you give up 62 points.
Yeah, that was rough. But the Harbaugh thing, it goes beyond, you're just John Cooper. I've said repeatedly, banners are banners, which is football.
Or,
NBA
you know
fan,
what I mean. Yeah.
Titles are titles.
Yeah.
You know, oh, that Final Four was a fluke. The Final Four, it hangs in the rafters.
Put them up there. Yeah.
The Big Ten title happened last year. Cannot be taken away. But I do not think it's a completely irrational, unreasonable position for Michigan naysayers, Paul Feinbaum and myself.
So even he's kind of come around to him a little bit. Bizarre.
Well, hold on, though. We're yes, but we're in hypothetical land here.
Okay.
Harbaugh loses Saturday.
Yeah.
Let's say that.
Yeah.
Now you're looking at last year. It's very easy to say kind of a fluke. I'm not saying it's fair, but it's a fair thought to at least put on the table for discussion. If you win, not that the game was a fluke, but just that it was not a sign of anything impactful because you went right back to losing.
Because statistically, one great performance does not equal the trend.
Yeah.
You know,
Just to clarify, the game that was not a fluke.
No, they all played.
The statement and a bigger picture was a fluke, is what I'm saying.
You're right. Because I know it was a 15-point game, and it took Hassan scoring that last touchdown to put it on ice. They did kick their ass. Like that was a dominant performance by that offensive.
Not a fluke.
Right. No, but I get what you're saying in terms of the overall narrative.
Yes.
It's like that team, it's like the team that finishes in last place 3 years in a row and then somehow wins the World Series. Like it's just like, okay, it comes out of nowhere. Not to say that Michigan had been that bad, but no, I mean, I'm with you. The narratives will change, and that's why I got a lot of criticism for the blog I posted. It is a defining moment for the Harbaugh era where he can take himself in terms of the overall public perception of him as a coach because he is, like all the shit people talk about him, he is one of the 10 to 15 best coaches in America, I would say. Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah. But now if he wins this and presumably beats Iowa, all of a sudden now you're top 5. You have returned to where many people in the country believe you would be when you got hired. Now, for whatever reason, it's taken way longer than anyone of us expected it to, but you're starting to get a lot more monkeys off your back. They beat up Michigan State this year. Not to say that Michigan State was a world beater, but it's like you needed it. You had to have it.
Yes.
And then you beat Ohio State back-to-back years. Now you're talking about that level of consistency that was expected when he got hired by Jim Hackett in December 2014.
You have to have the second win. You have to. Because that whole dragon slaying thing, that storyline that was out there last year, there's some people out there that think you guys maybe over-celebrated a little bit.
You know what, man? I don't agree with that at all. Because I didn't think they had a chance. So I'm just
whatever. I'm just saying, I don't mean that day. Go nuts that day. I mean like 9 months later, tweeting the score at Ohio State fans, taunting them. It's like,
well,
I mean, take a breath, guy.
What fan base doesn't do that? Come on.
You guys should have been more relieved than joyful after the fact. That's my opinion. But
I think you can be both. I was both relieved.
I don't like Michigan, so you're not going to get a nuance.
Of course, no, I know. Well, but that's why we're good on this show because I'm gonna push back against
it. Push away.
I get what you're saying, but I still watch the highlights of that game when I'm in a shitty mood because it was the greatest thing ever.
Oh, I don't blame you for that.
Yeah,
enjoying it is different from stomping on Ohio State. I'm not saying don't enjoy it. Don't enjoy it so much outwardly at Ohio State's expense.
And typically,
in my opinion,
and you know me, I don't really partake in that shit either. I don't tweet at Buckeye fans and say 42-27. What I do is I sit in bed at night and watch Hassan Haskins go nuts and I tear up a little bit and then I go back to bed. So I mean my rhetoric is obviously substantially different than a lot of Michigan fans out there.
Yeah, some guys, like if their wife or girlfriend walks in the room, they have to minimize their screen, to not get caught. Like I'm minimizing like Andy MSU. The YouTube channel that he does all like the
that guy he does a great job. Yeah,
he's awesome. So I'm minimizing like Jeremy Langford scoring a touchdown against OSU.
Yeah, no, I mean it was those were similar games too with like that late running game push. And just that realization of like,
it's finally
yeah. I mean, dude, if you watch my videos, like I have basically a fucking shrine to Trey Burke, like behind me. So like, you know how this stuff works, when it comes to fandom. Yeah.
Yeah. I got a couple of shrines in my basement that,
Do you? I haven't noticed.
So I'm a big shrine guy.
Yeah.
So I get taunted for I don't even consider it a shrine. I get taunted for the Jalen Watts Jackson display. And to me, it's like the weirdest criticism. Like, bro, you got a shrine to Jalen Watts Jackson in your basement. It's like,
It's
yeah.
I find it picture shamers to be a very weird lane because I just got a bunch of like a collage of about 7 photos of me with Barstool people, and they're like, "Why do you have a photo of you and Big Cat together?" I'm like, "Because we work together and he's my friend."
What's the nature of that criticism? Like, why is that?
Dude, it could run a lot. I think
it's a jealousy thing, right?
I don't want to go there, but
I'll go there. It's a jealousy thing.
I think it's like people are under the belief that we're not actually that close, and it's like, no, we talk. I'm not claiming that these people that he's gonna be the best man at my wedding. I'm just saying, I have one of me, you, and Anthony after in Ann Arbor last year.
Oh,
yeah, or
I made the
few
cut.
months ago.
You're on my wall multiple times actually at the studio.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
there's it's like you and one other person's up there multiple times. So anyway, just putting a button on that component.
Yeah,
the stakes are so high in the coaching aspect because if Ohio State loses, Ryan Day is going to be viewed very negatively. AJ talked about it a little bit on my show earlier today. Harbaugh loses, you're right back into, oh shit, last year, it was fun, but kind of the storyline is the same. I don't know. I think that's what interests me. I'm more interested in that than I am even who goes to Indy, which is weird maybe, but I'm fascinated. I like stories.
Just for the narrative, I get it.
Those fans are going to fucking kill him if he loses on Saturday. They're going to kill him.
Did I, this is a little anecdote here. When I worked at Speedway gas station, shout out to Scott, who was a great boss.
You had the biggest resume jump ever, Speedway.
Yeah, that was. I was a Keel Badu. I went from playing.
It's not a gradual bill.
Playing high A ball to being in the major league. He was an Ohio State graduate, and he told me, he goes, when we played his first year, they go 12-0, not bowl eligible because of the sanctions. The next year they are 13-0. Now they squeaked by against Michigan, or actually, I'm sorry, they were 12-0. They squeaked by against Michigan. They lose to that Michigan State team, and he was like, there were fans who wanted him fired. Now, of course, they're mentally ill. That's insanity. But it's like there will be that pushback against him if he ends up losing to Michigan 2 years in a row, especially with the talent they have at the skill position players. Now, a lot of those guys were urban recruits, but we'll see.
I think the Urban Meyer firing thing was one of the, because I saw that stuff too. It's one of the most ridiculous things. But even people shitting on Ryan Day, because I've defended him, I'd have to go into my Twitter.
I think he's an excellent coach, for the record.
People were shitting on him. His record, I'm kind of making this up, but it's close. It was like 30-2 or something, and they're shitting all over this guy. But they are going to be pissed if he loses on Saturday, and I'm not sure it's unfair. I mean, it's
at home, especially.
You got to win that game.
And they were also, that's the one issue I have with college football, is that when you go into a baseball season, there's realistically probably 8 to 10 teams that could win the World Series.
Yeah,
we knew on January 2nd of last year, this was going to come down to Michigan, Ohio, or of this year, I'm sorry. This was going to come down to Michigan, Ohio State. And whoop-de-doo. We've gone through the whole charade, and now it's going to come down to Michigan, Ohio State. So, yeah, we'll see. They were also, I'm not going to say overhyped because they're 11-0. The expectations for them was kind of natty or bust. And if you're not even making the playoff and losing at home for the first time in over 2 decades against Michigan, I'm not understanding the criticism of saying that he should be fired. But I do understand the criticism of where are we going here? Because you'll presumably will have been outcoached twice in a row.
I don't know if I've ever pinned you down on this, but I want to put a button on 2020 because we may have skated around it before. What happened at the end there? Ben, can you roll the little mashup, the allegation of Michigan ducking the Ohio State game? Save that. Let's save that for 1 minute, Chris, and then we'll roll that.
Now it comes down to they were going to play Michigan State Saturday. I still think Michigan waves the white flag, potentially avoids playing Ohio State next week. And then, David, they'll potentially get a game on the 19th. They could be sitting there with 6 games. And Michigan, is that fair, David? Michigan could opt out basically of that game and keep Ohio State out of 6 games to qualify for the Big Ten championship.
Following breaking news here on SportsCenter, not the news that Ohio State wanted. Michigan has canceled its game against Ohio State this Saturday due to positive COVID-19 cases and student athletes in quarantine in the Wolverines program.
It looks right. Herbie's right. He's 100% correct. You white flagged it.
I again, until we see the data, I don't know that you can say that.
This is the Michigan-Ohio State game. They just canceled it.
Yeah.
They're using a pandemic as a shield.
So
okay, can I just jump into that?
I was going to throw it right to you.
All right.
What do you make of
this? Using the pandemic as a shield. Yeah, the pandemic was a big fucking shield. Hundreds of thousands of people died.
Yeah, but you know what he's saying.
I understand what he's saying. Here's what I know, because I don't have that much of an in with the Michigan football program, to be honest. I've interacted positively with one Michigan football player. Not to say I've had negative interactions with one Michigan football player, and it's because I worship him.
You got to hit up Don Thomas if you want connections with Michigan football players. Don Thomas actually he's probably hanging out with McCarthy right now. He's cheating on Cade.
Don's been a very good guy to me. I'm not going to shit talk Don Thomas.
You're a Michigan fan.
But
There's
one Michigan football player that I've talked to in some capacity, like not to get inside info, but just to say I appreciate you. And this will come as no shock, but it was Jake Moody. So I don't have a lot of insider information with this stuff. What I do remember was that Michigan's entire quarterback crew was out for that game. And the guy, and I have the video, I can send it to you. And I remember I actually had a laughing fit, just being like, God, what a dumpster fire this season is. Anthony said that Hassan Haskins, running back, and Michael Barrett, linebacker, former high school quarterback, were getting reps at quarterback for the Ohio State game that week. Now, I know the offensive line had a lot of guys out. I truly, and people are going to call me a slappy, that's fine. I think that they wanted to play. I do. I don't believe in we're so scared of getting embarrassed that we are skipping this football game. Now, they would have gotten murdered. If they were at full health, they would have gotten murdered. If there's any conspiracy that I could see somebody going off of, it's that if they play that game and lose, and they could have lost 60-7. I mean, especially if you have a linebacker playing quarterback. It's like the Broncos a few years ago ran out of quarterbacks and had, one of the custodians playing, that could have been the end of Harbaugh. Really. I mean, remember when you had Baumgartner on and he said, had they have played the full season and gone 4-8, he probably would have gotten fired.
Yep.
If they would have played that game and lost that game, I don't know if he'd still be the coach here. But I don't believe that they went out of their way to have that game canceled. And many people push back against it, and you may push back against it. It's fine. The season was a disaster. I understand it. Now, the one thing Herb Street brought up that I just think is wrong. Ohio State was never not going to play for the Big Ten championship. They were.
That was what they said. 6-game minimum.
But they played the whole Big Ten season so they could play in the playoff.
Yeah.
You know this. Indiana wasn't going to Indy to play Northwestern. They knew, and their whole we overlooked the criteria and realized, no, what they were saying is, this team fucking rules, and so we're going to put it, which I have no problem with.
Yeah. It was the right
that was the right move.
Outcome.
So I think that part I push back against. That I don't think Jim Harbaugh was twirling his metaphorical mustache going, we're going to keep Ohio State out of the playoff. They were going to get in. They were going to get in anyway. Not to mention, they all actually had a lot of trouble with Northwestern in the Big Ten championship game. But, I mean, that's one of those things I've moved beyond. I've totally moved past, to be honest with you. But, it did add fuel to the fire at the same time. And this is a lot of credit to Michigan. That narrative lasted all year. And then the next year, they went to Ann Arbor and punched him in the mouth. In a weird way, they kind of won in the end in that aspect. Now we'll see.
They punched him when they had more strength. I mean, that's
and a full crowd.
It's congratulations. You waited for the other guy to get a little weaker and you to get a little stronger. You didn't fight when it was to your disadvantage. Would be the pushback. I don't think they faked COVID results.
Right.
I do think that's too far.
Right.
But what I do, I don't think they said, okay, you're actually healthy, you're negative, but we're going to make it positive to get out of here. I don't.
Okay.
That's
Because a lot of
insane.
people have implied that stuff.
That's insane.
Okay. Yes.
But
I'm
if
with you
they're
there.
undefeated or 4-1 or whatever it would have been, playing that game to go, and they liked their team. If they win, they go to Indy, and they're in the playoff conversation. They find a way on the field, is my opinion.
Again, I don't know enough about who was and wasn't positive for COVID, but
It's speculation. We admit that.
We'll do speculation. But if it was a circumstance like 2021 or 2018, where winner goes to Indy, yeah, they probably would play.
Do you think it's insane at an institution like Michigan for a coach of one of their major programs to monkey with the results to get on the field? You think that's an insane notion?
Monkey with the results in the sense of making up positive COVID results?
Or making up negative results to make sure they're eligible. Do you think that's an insane concept?
I don't believe that would happen.
Well, it actually happened at Michigan. Mel Pearson just got fired for it.
Okay.
So
you're putting me on the spot now, man.
Oh, I'm just saying.
I understand that there were also, from what I know, and I'm not a huge hockey guy, some different circumstances beyond, in terms of Mel Pearson's behavior that went beyond.
Well, it wasn't the only reason he got fired.
Right.
It was harassment allegations. But my point, that's not even relevant. The point is that he fudged COVID results according to their own investigation.
That's fair, but Mel Pearson and Jim Harbaugh and the people involved in the Michigan football program are different people.
I agree, but I'm saying this notion that nobody would ever do that. It happened within 12 months at the same school. So it's not an insane theory.
It's not me saying it's an insane theory. It's me saying that I think you have to take it at a case-by-case basis.
That's fair,
yeah,
too.
Yeah.
And nobody knows. It's all speculation. But I push back on the idea that, that would never happen. It happened at that same school. So it's the same exact thing. You're fudging results to keep it's just the reverse, to keep guys eligible.
I understand it. At the same time, much like a lot of other things I've gone on recently with some rivalry stuff, I don't think about that anymore.
But I do, because it's a great thing to make fun of you for and make me feel less bad about what's going on at my school.
But okay. All right. Now you're being upfront with it. That's fair. Now you're being upfront with that.
Oh, completely.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you see that Indiana finish?
There's a self-awareness there finally where I'm like, all right, I get, because I could be
100% what that is.
I could be tossing it out like the dealer in Casino Royale, just handing out cards right now and going with that. Okay. In that case, fine.
Yeah.
Have some fun.
Can I just whine for a couple minutes, please? Okay, let's get to this.
Okay.
What actually happens on Saturday before we touch on the Tigers a little bit?
Yeah.
What happens?
Here's how I feel about this. I said earlier, Michigan can win this game. I believe that they will be healthier than they were a week ago, based on the intel I've gotten. Now, healthier does not mean that Blake Corum's going to be running the way that he was running against Michigan State. I don't know. I have no inside info about, how healthy he is. There's 3 issues that worry me about this Michigan game. Because unlike previous years, like the Don Brown years, I have no concerns about the personnel. I think Minter has done a marvelous job with the defense. Here's what worries me. And people are going to say it's an excuse, but it's not. I'm sorry. It's just the truth. I worry about how banged up they are. I worry about the fact that they have to go on the road. And the biggest thing is, as good as Michigan's defense has been this year, they have not played skill position players this good. They have not faced a wide receiver as good as Marvin Harrison Jr. They have not faced a quarterback as good as C.J. Stroud. This will not be a 2018 game plan bit of malpractice like what we saw, in the Rich Rod years, and what we saw, obviously, in 2018, which was they were favored in that game. I still can't get over that. I believe it's a tight game. I've changed my tune a little bit. I'm going 27-17 Ohio State. Now, which would technically mean they cover. Now, I was talking to my family about this the other night. Predictions are stupid. All it is just setting yourself up for failure. You go off about this on Twitter all the time, where you'll have a correct take. Nobody says shit, but when you have a bad one, it's remember when you said that? And last year, dude, my prediction last year was 45-21. I thought they were going to get just demolished. All I know is they can win the game. There will be two things that really need to happen in order for them to do that. And for the record, 27-17 is my final prediction. Two things will need to happen. Number one, Blake Corum, and it could, especially if he's hobbling around, needs to have his Heisman moment. Needs to have that 200-yard, he needs to do what Hassan Haskins did last year. And number two, as much as I do believe he is the most talented quarterback of the Jim Harbaugh era, you finally, God, it makes me mad. Hit a fucking throw downfield to one of your receivers, okay? Because you know what? I was not the biggest Cade McNamara guy. Now, Cade McNamara was a milquetoast quarterback to me. But and last year against Ohio State, that was the Hassan Haskins game. That was the Aiden Hutchinson game. That was the Mike McDonald game. And while they ran it as well as they could possibly run it, I think they threw 3 or 4 passes in the second half, and one of them was JJ. Cade did hit 2 huge throws in that game. One was, I believe, a flea flicker to Roman Wilson. I could be wrong, may not have the right receiver. The other one, in a moment in which Michigan was losing in the second quarter, made probably the best throw of his career downfield to Cornelius Johnson, down to the one that set up Hassan Haskins' first touchdown, I believe. JJ needs to make multiple throws like that. He is capable of doing that. And if that happens, and you get out to an early lead, you can win this football game. The one downside as well that scares me is while they're not a bad first half team, they've been an underwhelming first half team this year. And you can get by on that against Rutgers and against, Indiana and some of the teams that they've played. When you're going to the horseshoe, if you find yourself down 14-3, 10-0 early on, the Jim Harbaugh ball that they like to play, that's neutralized. JJ's going to have to start making some throws then. So if those things fall in line, they win this game. When I watch Ohio State, even last year when Michigan beat Ohio State, I remember watching the Rose Bowl, which was a great game, 51-48, and thinking, how in God's green earth did Michigan beat this team? So they are not Goliath this year. But I think Ohio State wins the game. And much like last year, nothing would please me more than to be proven wrong about that.
It's an interesting game to handicap. I would argue almost impossible today. You mentioned the Michigan injuries. Ohio State's banged the fuck up too. They're down. They may play, but
one of the best receivers has basically been
the best receiver has been questionable for 9 weeks.
Yeah,
Jackson.
Though I don't know, Marvin Harrison Jr. is out of his mind. But yeah, I mean, what a luxury to have.
Either way, it's a huge loss. Mm-hmm. 2 of their offensive linemen are down. I think one may play, one may not, but whatever. Yeah. I mean, they have multiple injuries on their defense. They are as decimated. And it's like, are these guys playing or not? So it's, if I find out that, Blake Corum is a late scratch, that's going to hurt any chance I give Michigan.
I'm not saying I have insider info. He's playing.
I'm just using that as an
example.
Unless
they amputate his leg, that guy's playing.
I'm using that as an example.
Yeah,
Jackson, pick your guy. There's things that could swing or even if you're betting in game and you see the first series and Jackson Smith is out there trying to, Jacobs trying to play a series and then, his fucking leg hurts.
He's doing the Willis Reed shit.
There's just so much. There's so many. There's always injuries, but this year in particular, I don't know. I am picking Ohio State to win. It's not just anti-Michigan. It's from my conversations, honestly, mainly with AJ. We touched on it today.
Yeah.
He's still very plugged into the program, but he said the Ohio State guys, for them to lose even once to Michigan, they're showing up to like team events and with alumni. They have like co-mingling with alumni and current players. Some of the recent alumni are like, this is what AJ was saying on the show today. Man, I was 5-0 against Michigan. Like, it's guys with extra eligibility.
They're damaged goods.
Well, they're looking at these guys, Ohio State players, like, you lost once? What's wrong with you? They do not. They are mad. They've been hearing that shit for 12 months.
Yeah, of course.
They are pissed. Michigan, to me, in theory, does not have the same mental incentive. The stakes, they're both playing for the same, prize and nugget. But just the mental, the human, emotional factor.
Yeah.
I got to give the edge to Ohio State.
Yeah. Now, let me counter that with a question.
Yeah.
Because, and this is it's not meant to be insulting because I do the same shit. When was the last time you predicted Michigan to beat Ohio State?
Oh, wow.
Were you on them in 18 when they were favored?
No, probably 2012, the Fickle year, or 2011. 2011?
Okay, well, yeah, the Denard.
But I've mostly been right picking against them.
No shit. Yeah.
So,
you've been wrong every time.
I've been wrong once.
Right. So, yeah.
It's like, I have a pretty good record, actually.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Look, it's going to be an emotional game. I've weirdly, last year, alleviated a lot of stress. Because I'll be honest with you, dude, I didn't think he would ever do it. I did not think they would win that game. And it was, if I'm ranking best sports wins of all time, that's in my top 2 or 3.
You were there, right?
No, I was not. I was at Indy. But I was not in.
I know you were in Indy at St. Elmo's with Broom and having the spicy tamale.
So I'll tell you what, man, I read a book about that weekend. But
yeah.
I'm with you, man. It would bring a lot of joy to my life, but it's one of those things, man, because I get, and we've had a bit of a back and forth about this, and I have with a lot of people, is I'm a firm believer in the chase and how fun that can be. And I know we lament like that era of Tiger baseball, but we went into October for a long time being like, all right, let's do this, and they never did. A team that 2 years ago was down 17-0 to Rutgers is playing for a chance to beat Ohio State and go undefeated. And dude, you know me, man, it'd break my fucking heart if they lost this game. But it's sometimes the chase is worth it, to be honest. So I have mild confidence. I don't think they win, but I'm looking forward to the moment. The problem is, I don't have anyone to watch the game with.
If you put out a tweet and say that you're lonely, you will have 20,000 people at your door.
But they all moved away, man.
Oh, you're giving me this lonely routine. Don't be like one of those
like Eeyore or some shit.
Those pouty rock stars. Everybody fucking loves you.
Hide behind the tears of a clown.
Yeah, so there's going to be a behind the music about Chris Castellani. Where it all went wrong.
I'm Leif Garrett.
You have the highest approval rating. If anyone even like criticizes a take completely objectively, fairly, and kindly, people are like fucking grabbing pitchforks to impale these people.
I'm not gonna say who. I'll tell you off the air. But I got a FaceTime call with about 2 minutes left in the Illinois game last weekend. And I was freaking the fuck out. I'm like, we're gonna lose this goddamn game.
Who's whatever.
But
that's passe. You don't FaceTime someone. Sorry.
But it wasn't a mean thing. It wasn't like an insulting thing. He didn't know. He didn't know that he wasn't watching the game.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't an insulting thing. And I was like, for half a second, I'm like, okay, I can breathe. All right, we're good. And then, and so I actually, I'm going to text him later and give him credit for Jake Moody making that last field goal. So yeah. And also I'm laid back here. I'm a psychopath when I watch these games. I have the same principle as you do. I'm not responsible for what I say during games. Yeah. I can't do it. Yeah. So
and I could even extend it to like 15 minutes before, because I'm always predicting either we'll get blown out or we'll blow somebody out.
Yeah.
And at least 12 hours after, I think I'm exempt too. But people will pull stuff like, oh, in the third quarter during a 17-2 run, you said Michigan State's lost their way on defense. It's like, fuck you.
On that possession, they probably did.
It's like, that's where it's like, those takes should be viewed with the tiniest grain of salt
There needs to be an offshoot of Twitter that is just like a vent, like this is where you vent. This is it's a scream into the void section. That's what it needs to be. Is put it aside. Nobody else can read it. You have your inner circle, and it's just you screaming at a wall until the game's over.
What is it like? Snap? I don't use Snap. Is Snapchat the one where it like disappears?
It disappears after like 7 seconds. Yeah,
like that. Like this take cannot be screenshot.
Yeah, no, I might have to do something like that at some point. Yeah.
You work for a media company. Pull some strings. All right. I like your score. I think that's about right.
And my prediction is also 17-17 going into the fourth quarter. Like I don't think this is going to be a 14-0 game. I just think they outlast them.
You better hit some downfield throws, brother, because every time I was looking up from the horror show in East Lansing, McCarthy was sailing some other ball 3 yards
and
back.
a lot of, as I brought up earlier, a lot of that was the receivers got to be better. You know, they dropped some. And now
I didn't see any of the drops, so I didn't watch the
Okay,
game.
well, no, there were 3. There was 2 touchdown drops.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, and then one that was a first down drop that would have elongated the drive. So
he better make some throws. So.
He has to. And I like JJ. And you know what? In fairness to him, he's a true sophomore. He's like, if this was, you know, like Shea Patterson in his last year, you know, airmailing passes drove me nuts. It's like, man, you've been playing college quarterback for 4 years. Yeah. This kid, I know you. I'm
not saying kill the kid. I'm saying he better hit those throws or you're not winning. I'm not saying let's burn him at the stake. He's got to make the throw.
We're in lockstep. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
He doesn't have to be perfect. He can't miss 5 throws because those throws aren't going to be there all day.
Mm-hmm. He needs to be what Cade was last year. Hit 2 or 3 big throws downfield that move drives, get you to the goal line, and then you can go with Corum or Donovan Edwards, assuming he plays, and punch the ball in.
Do you have the stamina for like 7 minutes on the Tigers?
Dude, I get stamina for 70 minutes on the Tigers.
Well, you know, we got to keep our audience.
Okay, that's fine.
Although with you here, I could probably do a 7-hour marathon.
Dude, but I got time, man. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
The Scott Harris thing.
Yes.
We are Scott Harris honks, you and I. We are huge fans of Scott Harris. We've talked about this on Spaces before. We were singing the guy's praises based on his resume, based on his reputation, based on his press conference, which is we were getting into like almost creepy territory with the fangirl stuff. I
don't blame myself for it.
No, I stand by it. I have 0 regrets. Yeah. We've loved everything they've done so far since you and I have even talked about this, even privately.
Yeah,
the developments kind of continue favorably. I don't know those fucking Michigan position coaches, but everyone seemed to think those were good hires. The hitting coach and. So this,
who I actually met, by the way.
Well, you're a dignitary,
nice guy. Yeah,
he met you, is what you meant to say. But
totally.
we've liked don't sandbag yourself. But we've liked everything they've done.
Yeah.
This offseason, what do you see happening as a general? You know, feel free, name names or no names, but as a general impact, what type of a statement are they going to make? Are we looking big game hunting? Are we looking kind of modest and then maybe pounce next year? We've been thrilled so far. Are we going to be thrilled 3 months from now with what they did?
This is my prediction. 1 big signing and a lot of other modest.
You already got to clarify. What does that mean? What's the quotation?
Wilson Contreras, potentially.
Okay.
And then a few other 1-2 year solid player contracts. Now, Avila often tried to do the same thing. The record speaks for itself. Here's the sad truth about the Detroit Tigers right now, is that let's just I was planning on what I was going to say to you about this, so I'm just going to reiterate my rehearsal. Let's say that a good offense in baseball, not Astros, not Dodgers, not even Phillies, who went nuts in the postseason, has probably 6 guys in a 9-guy lineup that you can look at and go, that guy puts together a tough at bat. The guy's pretty good. The Tigers, right now, based on what I saw last season, have 1. And that guy was a rookie who actually wasn't as good as people made him out to be. Like, Riley Green was not, I think because of how bad the rest of the offense was, like, people made him out to be Juan Soto. I think he's going to end up being really good. Much better as a defender than we expect. But I'm strictly talking offense. So that essentially means they are 5 players away from having a good lineup. You're not getting that back all at once. You can't. Unless Chris Ilitch says, fuck it, Aaron Judge, Carlos Correa, go out, get everybody, which he's not doing the Steve Cohen thing. Okay. So this is going to take time. And a lot of that will come through player development, good drafting, good scouting. This will surprise some people. I don't believe last year's team was as bad as how they played. I think that there was a weird Murphy's Law, everything that could have gone bad did. Everyone had a bad year. I can't I can't overstate that enough. Everyone was bad. And if they weren't bad, they weren't healthy. Or they went missing for 3 months as pitchers. Or, and God bless him, I hope he has a great year. And I'm not, Austin Meadows had the mental health issues, and I wish him all the best. And he is the one where I still think he's going to be good. So I'll give you 2. But they are deficient at third base. Jamer was awful, and now he's gone. At catcher, I like Eric Haas, but I like Eric Haas as a backup. So I can't really put him in there. Torkelson, as of now, is deficient. Could turn it around. Javi is Javi. You go back, you look at the rest of the outfield. You could put Haas in left, sure. There's certain guys that you can look at and say maybe, but they are about 5 or 6 players away from having a good offense. As sad as it makes me, you're not getting that back all at once. You can't get it back all at once. Yeah. I think that the reason I say I think they were better than how they performed last year is because, again, the Murphy's Law principle. The biggest issue with the pitching was just the bad luck with the injuries. And you have to expect there's going to be pitching injuries, but when Drew Hutchinson is leading your team in innings pitched and every single opening day starter gets injured, all of them, some of them getting Tommy John, and that's not even including Turnbull, who got knocked out the year before. That part I can say, okay, I think the pitching's going to be fine. Fetter's a genius. The bullpen was in the top 10 in the sport all year in terms of ERA. Their number one priority is they desperately need to improve offensively. And my hope is that coaching will help with that. But as of now, they are going to be returning a second baseman. He picked up his own option, which why wouldn't he? Who had a 239 on base percentage last year. So that's not really a Harris problem. It's going to be 1 or 2 years before we can kind of deal with this team being relatively competitive again. Now, if the coaching is better and the scouting is better and, the video department is better and the analytics are better, maybe this can be a 75-win team a year from now. I love the hire. I think that everything he's done up to this point has been masterful because as much as we liked him when he got hired, do you know how disappointing it would have been if he would have come in here and said, you know what, I like Scott Coolbaugh. I like David Chad. I like Ramon Santiago as the third base coach. No, I made this joke. He's gone through this organization like he's Nicholson in The Shining, axing off people who have been a part of this pestilence that have destroyed the organization over the last 7 years. So I love the hire. I like him. I don't know if it works because the sad truth is that sometimes presidents are as good as their owners and owners are as good as their presidents. The X factor here is what Chris Ilitch is going to be willing to do and willing to allow him to do. So I like the hire. I think it's going to get turned around in a few years, but we're going to find out here, man. We're going to have to find out.
And you kind of said it. You don't have to have those 5 bats added via free agency. It can be in-house growth. I mean,
right, but that takes a few years to do that.
Does it though? I mean, couldn't Torkelson be good next year in theory?
So that's 2.
Okay, but if you sign 2 guys, now you're up to 4. And now I'm looking at I don't like Javi Baez. Is it impossible to think that he's functional next year?
No, okay.
He's been a good hitter.
He's going to be, and maybe I'm just saying this for the sake of my sanity. I think he'll be better than he was a year ago.
I agree. It's a low bar.
It's a low bar, but what was weird about him last year that I think, and that we've seen this happen, is he sucked defensively too. Like at least last year, if he did the whole, swinging at pitches that were being thrown off the fucking whales outside of, Comerica Park, that shit. Even if he was doing that, you could at least say, okay, he's a 2 D-WAR defender. He wasn't. I mean, he led the team in errors, which I'm not huge on errors because it's like those are often a reflection of opportunities, but it's where I give Torkelson credit. Torkelson saved his ass with the scoops at first base
Many times.
Million times.
Many times.
So that makes me think he might have been in his own head. But I really think when I watch the really good teams in baseball, and I'm an analytics guy, you are too, and I don't live and die by it. I mean, hey, Dusty Baker just won a World Series. Is Dusty Baker, checking out sabermetrics every night? Probably not. The organization is. But at the same time, I think that one thing that the bill of goods that Al Avila sold this organization was that, we got an analytics department now. All right, just because you buy your grandparents a 1998 AOL dial-up internet computer doesn't mean that you're running on like a Windows.
We're with the times now.
Exactly. It's now it's with the times, and so that entices me a lot because we've seen, and it's the biggest frustration that all of us have seen is all these Tigers who leave Detroit and get better. Well, why is that? Did Justin Verlander's just get a new arm? Well, you could argue he did because he got Tommy John, but at the same time,
he was dominant before.
He was dominant before he left here. So what happened? What was it? Was it just that he decided to get better? No, he was open. He goes, went there, saw the video department, fixed my slider. One big thing that got overlooked in Harris's press conference is he said, we want to make this a destination where people want to come to play here. And I viewed that as kind of a thinly veiled shot at, I don't know if I want to come to Detroit because I don't know if they have the resources to make me a better player. There's no reason Correa shouldn't have been a Tiger last year. There's not. And so you go with Baez, who's the biggest free swinger in the entire sport. And now you're going to have a ways to go here. So it sucks because it's not Harris's fault that he's going to have to do a mini rebuild. And people may blame him for it when in reality, it's the previous 7 years that screwed him over.
It sucks because we have to, I mean, what choice do we have? But we have to give him time. And it's just, me of all people understands, it's so insulting to fans to ask this fan base for more time. But you kind of have to.
When it comes to a new regime, you have to.
To me, it's like, I have no animosity. Like, hey, Harris, build this right, take your time. My animosity comes on ownership because I'm sitting here years before the owner could figure it out. Like, and it's not like I was unique. All the fans thought this. Mm-hmm. It's not that it was some brilliant take on my part. You thought this. I thought this. Ben thought this. My wife knew that Avila sucked. She barely watches this stuff. Yeah. Even she knew that everyone hated this.
And to be real, man, I was probably more patient than almost anyone else.
Well, yeah, you're a friendly guy.
Well,
you're the last off.
I'm a fanboy too. I just want him to be good so bad. So I'm like, maybe.
You're a hopeful spirit. But the point is, any animosity about 3 more years before we pop, like, direct that at ownership, not at Harris.
100%.
This could have been avoided.
He's a clean slate.
Yeah.
There's if you're blaming, and I know how Twitter's going to work. If they're bad next year, it's you hired your savior and like now he stinks. And people will do that shit. I'm telling you, it's gonna take some time here, and it's time they don't. A lot of people think they don't have. There is no way, and I was talking to White Sox Dave at Barstool about this, where Tracy Smith, who is now the head coach for Michigan baseball, coached Spencer Torkelson at Arizona State, and Andrew Vaughn, who's a player that I like and you like, who I think will be a all-star first baseman for the White Sox. And White Sox Dave said this publicly, so I'm not revealing personal information. He said Vaughn is great. Torkelson is a freak. So something got lost in the translation because you don't go from dominating every single level of baseball to being and this is, 2 things are true, the worst hitter in the sport on fastballs down the middle and having the single worst in terms of wins above replacement, worst season ever by a number 1 overall pick. That makes me think that's an organizational problem because, dude, no one had a good year offensively last year. No one. Probably their best hitter was Riley Green, who I still believe had an OPS plus that was below league average. And you could maybe say, and part of it's the story because people like him, Eric Haas. Besides that, nobody else. I
mean, I don't have to look at the baseball reference page for 2022 to give Spencer Torkelson the benefit of the doubt. I can look at their baseball reference page every single year since Alan Trammell was drafted. I've tweeted about this. We talked about it. They haven't. What was it? They haven't drafted one guy, one bat that finished top 8 in MVP voting one time. You got guys like Joan Figgins that have had top 5, top 6 finishes. They've gone 30 years, over 30 years, without developing one guy.
Yeah.
That not one that finished top 8 once.
That not top 8, but it goes beyond that.
Do you know how bad that is?
It's so bad, but dude, it goes beyond that. The last position player they drafted who started the All-Star game was Alex Avila.
And he was good that year.
And you know what's weird? I liked Alex Avila, but
Underrated.
It's just. But I wrote a whole, or it might have been a video where I talked about this. Do you know how good that era was, where we used to think he was a bad player? Like when he after Jackson and Hunter and Miggy and Fielder and Vmart, it's like, oh, here comes Avila. Avila was.
He got 370 OBP.
Yeah, it's like he hit some monster home runs and took a beating behind home plate.
Yeah.
Like, and of course the irony being he's the son of the guy who ran the organization into the ground.
He was the good Avila.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I am encouraged by the fact that the division stinks, which does help. But I believe in this guy a lot. I really do. I was in press conferences are press conferences, but him laying out the philosophy that he did, him being young, and as you brought up, the recommendation when you have Theo Epstein, who is the greatest GM maybe in the history of baseball.
No, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Saying this guy rules. That's incredibly encouraging.
It sure beats that Ken Rosenthal piece. Multiple sources. We don't think this guy's clever enough to maneuver.
I was in Omaha. We talked about. I was in Omaha when that happened. That article made me laugh, but it
one of the funniest articles I've ever read.
It made me laugh like it was like laugh crying because I made a video about it where I said what is said in this article is everything we've been saying for 5 years. And Rosenthal, I think, is, in terms of baseball stuff, maybe the best. Ken Rosenthal's brilliant. But to essentially have the gall to write a piece in which you call another team's GM basically stupid.
Yeah.
Like that is, and I'm willing, because we talked about this with Chris Ilitch too. I think there were 2 moments last summer that broke him. Because I don't care how rich you are. Eventually, you break a little bit. You have to. That article, and I made a video about this where I had a tantrum, which I don't take back. When he did the whole, I'm happy with the progress of the Tigers, and people were like, we're 40 games under 500. I think that got to him. Not saying that we're now going to have the Pudge Rodriguez moment. We're now going to have the Carlos Gann moment. I think something might have clicked there because I don't care how much money you have. The amount of public shame has to get to you at some point.
Chris Ilitch doesn't have a subscription to The Athletic. I disagree with you on the first part.
But I think the word got out.
He doesn't
bad.
even know about that article, is my guess. The second part, I'm with you. Who knows?
But the thing is, I always assumed, and we talked about it a million times, I always assumed they were buddy-buddy. That it was never going to happen. We talked about it on Spaces. Where
2 days before it happened, we were like, this is never going to happen.
Yeah, my whole thing was best case scenario, because Avila was admittedly one of the older GMs in the sport, was he just says, all right, I'm out. I'm just retiring, and we can get somebody else in there. The fact that they fired him mid-season, I would love to know, and the fact is, every 4 years, Chris Ilitch sees a shadow and we hear from him, which is kind of annoying. I would love to know the moment. If there was one where he's just like, it's just not working anymore. Because they struck me as 2 guys that probably had dinner together every night. So I'm like, I don't know what clicked.
I'm with you. That'd be a fascinating thing to know. Like, just what was it? Because to me, the worst that we saw from this guy kind of already happened in the past. What was worse than blowing multiple trade deadlines with critical components? It's like, to me, once that was blowing up, I just, the total mishandling, asking for the moon from Matt Boyd, and he was such a disaster.
That one gets overlooked so much.
Not by me.
Oh, no, but
that was my cause celeb for like a year.
And that was, oh my God, I remember those videos. I was throwing shit across my room where it's like, this guy, he is a fine, solid 2-WAR pitcher. They thought he was Sandy Koufax. That was insane. Now, really though, I mean, God, holy shit, it lasted 5 years. Where it started was the mishandling of the 2017 deadline.
Yeah,
that's what it was. Because if you get an overhaul for Upton, Verlander, JD Martinez, he's probably still there.
If he got anything in trading multiple Hall of Famers, he probably would.
Exactly, yeah. And it wasn't just because there's a little bit of bad luck involved. Franklin Perez being made of paper, but the fact that the one that gets overlooked is they traded Justin Upton for a guy who retired like 2 months later. Like it was
baseball wasn't for him anymore.
Right. Probably because he found out he was playing for the Tigers.
Yeah. Well,
So
I mean, it was for the Angels too. So if he did have a good career, it would have been wasted.
yeah, exactly.
We'll finish here because I don't want to keep you too long.
No, I'm happy to be here, man. Honestly, yeah.
Well, you're the man. This is why you have the record.
Thank you.
But I do want to finish here though. Has your opinion? Chris Ilitch fires Avila finally.
Yeah.
August 10th, 2022. Has your opinion of Chris Ilitch from August 9th, the day before that happened, to today changed based on that decision? Are you still equally cynical and even he had to break eventually? Have you fundamentally changed even a little bit on Chris Ilitch?
If we're doing a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I think you're the worst owner in sports, 10 being you're Steve Cohen and you're going to spend out of your ass and all you care about is winning. I went from a 1 to a 4.
Oh, so a big jump, actually.
Well,
if 3 levels, that's a pretty big jump.
Yeah, but if you see a movie that's a 4 out of 10, I wipe my ass with it.
I'm not saying you like it,
right? No,
but that's a big jump. I mean, you're going from Geely to I don't know.
A lot of it is because of how low. A lot of it, yes. A lot of it is how low the expectations were. Because I didn't think it would ever happen. So I was like, okay, at least you are implementing the idea in my head that maybe you're really starting to care. But, and I like and because I like the hire. I think I like it. And I don't know how much of that was him. They brought in Yzerman, but you know what?
I need to see more. Because
more from Harris or more from?
Oh no, Harris. I'm on board with. I'm blindly signing up for that magazine.
Yeah.
No, from Chris, because I mean, even the worst owners in sports eventually fire their dum dums, and even the Fords.
But I didn't think he ever would. I didn't think he would.
I thought he would eventually. I did not. I was ready for it to go on for another 3 years. Everybody has their breaking point eventually. I mean, Matt Millen had to get, he was forced out only because the owner's son went over his head and went into the public and said, this is a joke. Why is this guy still here?
Yeah.
I mean, there's always, even if it's an absurd breaking point, and absurdly belated, everyone gets there eventually. But, I mean, even to the point where if Avila just leaves, you said it. I mean, he's kind of getting up there, but whatever.
Do you think Avila was worse than Matt Millen?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's hard though because he was more damaging because
Avila or Millen?
Avila, and here's why.
Yeah.
Avila came into an opportunity where I think in terms of starting to rebuild, it was really stacked in his favor. Multiple pieces to offload, an ownership group that was still willing to keep you at least middle in the pack. You're not running bare bones.
Yeah.
You were given most of what you asked for. By all accounts, publicly and privately, he was given carte blanche. There was no undermining. Avila got to do everything he wanted.
Yeah.
You're not in a cap. You're spending more than half the teams.
Coming off of a very prosperous era. Whether you like the world's not win the World Series, whatever. But like when Millen got hired, the Lions were the Lions. We were coming off the Dombrowski era, which was, again, we complain about it, not winning the World Series. A very fruitful era of Tiger baseball.
Tigers have multiple championships in their history. They had multiple close calls in the very close rearview mirror.
Yes.
The line, what did Millen ruin? It was ruined on arrival. Avila took over an iconic, it's not the Yankees or Red Sox, but a good winning traditional brand.
Yeah.
And just blew it. And his opportunity, he's holding on to these glory pieces, these glorious high-value veterans, and got absolutely nothing. I just don't think they're like apples to apples. I think Avila blew it more. They were equally
It's a perfect
bad.
way to put it. Yeah, it's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
He had more resources, more players to trade away. And we've talked about it too. I never hated the idea of the rebuild. Like, I still have arguments with people who say they should have never traded Verlander, never traded Martinez.
Most people are outliers. Most people were on board with it.
Yeah, I was always like, dude, this core's... In 2017, they were like 8 games under 500 when they set the reset button. So, like, regardless of how good the players they had were, the team was not succeeding. So, yeah, man.
You don't let Scherzer leave if you're trying to just run this into the ground and extend it as long as possible.
Though that was not him.
Well, no, I'm saying, but organizationally, I know it wasn't him, but that wasn't even Dombrowski. That was Mike Ilitch getting all sensitive, just like he did with Sergei Fedorov. But it was the Tigers' version of that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, organizationally, if they had kept Scherzer, then that's the argument for once Avila takes over. Okay, we still have Scherzer. Verlander was having a down year, but like you have enough there, or even if the team is struggling, I'm not selling if I have Verlander and Scherzer here. So of
course
that was the key.
Yeah.
I mean, there are multiple factors, but if I'm pointing to one thing, if Scherzer's on the roster and he was the best pitcher in baseball, top 5, best DeGrom was, but was top 5 in that run, and arguably still is. He only goes like 5 innings every start now.
Well, he's been injured, but he's still the man.
He's so good. I mean, he was
still the man.
He was good for 7 years after that decision to let him walk and counting.
Maybe the greatest free agent contract like ever. What he did with the Nats. I mean, he was so fucking good.
And he was replaced by the worst contract in Detroit sports history. But anyway, that's where I'm at with them. I'm kind of with you. I went from like a 1. Man, even I think 1 is harsh. I mean, he's not like the A's running this on like a $60 million budget.
But they don't have the money. Like Ilitch has the money, that's why I put it at a 1.
Okay, but I mean he can just make a decision to not spend. I mean, I will never put an owner at a 1 if they're not even in the bottom 10 payroll. That's like a rule. Like if you're not in the bottom
they were for a while,
but they're not right now.
Yeah, because of Javi Baez and Erod.
I'm just saying, but it's enough of a commitment, even if it's a dumb one. Don't make me defend Chris Ilitch. I go throw up after.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
I'm not going to go there.
I'm just doing devil's advocate.
You've sat here for 2 hours. You have not commented on the adjustment to the Paul Bunyan Trophy. Let's finish there, actually.
What the blindfold on it?
Do you like the yellow blindfold? Was that you're the Michigan fan.
Yeah.
Was that a fair compromise? Because I was told I had to take it down. But I just spent all this money to have the shelf mounted, onto the wall. It'd be a huge empty space. I think you can't see it on camera, but I think it would be wrong to completely take him down. Is the blindfold a fair compromise? Be the judge on this.
I'll give you the blindfold. I think a face mask might work a little better.
I got to cover his whole face?
I see a little bit too much face. like Paul Bunyan right now looks like he's about to partake in something that's a little bit kinky. That's the problem with what I'm seeing right now. We got 50 shades of Bunyan going on in the Spiro Avenue studio. That's the one issue. But
the idea was he's like a hostage was the goal.
Which
apparently I blew that one.
Which maybe he was, but no, I mean
the role playing that he's
that's the one issue is like maybe Paul Bunyan's happy with losing that game. I'm not quite sure, but
you're a funny guy.
I'm doing the best I can, man. Yeah. There's plenty of right material when it comes to Michigan State for sure.
Well, at least I made a good faith effort to acknowledge the fact that.
No, you acknowledged it. Yeah. No, you didn't keep him up there for sure.
Should I put the white helmet that we swung at you guys? It's over your shoulder.
I was telling you earlier. You should, but you got to put police tape over it just to make sure that there's an active crime scene going on.
Careful. David Diamond says you guys came in like the battering ram, so I don't know.
Well,
you guys were like trying to. It was like the DEA busting down the door. One of your players, I'm not going to name names, but that's what David Diamond said. David Diamond said the Michigan guy came in spearing people, and
well, he was also the one who said Davion Bush, right? Was that his?
I'm not going to comment on the grammar. It had at least 1 or 2 typos, and it was a colorfully written piece for sure.
Yeah.
We like all our guests.
No, of course, man. I'm having some fun. I like talking to you, man.
I said we get Tom Mars in a KY Jelly match. We were talking about kinky stuff against David Diamond, and whoever school's attorney wins.
Are you talking about in a fight or
KY Jelly match? Have you seen Old School? Will Ferrell?
Yeah.
Comes down and it's for tonight's main event. Where Blue fights the 2 girls in bikinis.
Yeah.
Get Tom Mars in a giant inflatable pool with David Diamond. Fill it with KY. It can be off-brand to save on cost, and just fight to the death in the KY tub. And if Tom Mars wins, you charge them all with first-degree murder. And if David Diamond wins...
High stakes, Justin.
Well, that's the only way we play. If David Diamond wins this brawl to the KY death, then not only are the charges dropped, Michigan has to vacate their wins and give them to Michigan State. I think that's the only way to settle this, because enough with the investigation. I have attorneys coming on the show. Oh, actually, it's totally normal for this to take 3.5 years. Get them in the pool.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's almost like a very Barstool-esque thing, because
who wouldn't pay to see that?
No, well, dude, you know how we settle our issues at Barstool? We do rough and rowdy. Employees fight each other in a boxing match.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's so.
I'll be sending in my resume. I got great ideas. I mean, just what you need. Another person. Hey, you guys hiring over there? Look.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
I just want to resolve
the 30 emails I get a week.
I will not talk about Tunnelgate on the show. I'm like Bart Simpson writing it on my chalkboard 1,000 times. But
I would. I'm just like, we got to beat Ohio State this week.
You guys got bigger problems.
Yeah.
Anything to distract from the actual season is good. I need a couple more criminal investigations.
Because I know Valenti was talking about this too. In terms of Michigan State football losses that didn't. Okay, that sounds weird. That didn't matter. Like excluding Wisconsin 2011. Like, where does that rank the Indiana game and like worse?
Oh, he stole my point. That was my point in my post game show. Where if you take away the Wisconsin game and stuff,
I know. I remember you talking about that.
I mean, because whatever. He has a burner, and half of the things I say end up on his show. But he's the best. I'm not making any accusations.
Yeah,
but
no, I respect Valenti a lot. A lot of people think I don't like him. I like.
He's the best the town's ever seen. I love Valenti. I think he and I have it's not plagiarism. He and I think alike. But it is, and I actually talked about this. I don't know. He didn't say off the record. It doesn't matter. I talked about this with Chris Solari too, privately, because he's been covering this team for years.
Yeah.
He said the Notre Dame 06 game was like,
to me, that's number one. Yeah.
But the problem with that is, you lost that game, but you lost to a Maxwell Award winner, which is like the other Heisman, in Brady Quinn. Not to a guy.
Did he win the Maxwell that year?
He either won it that year.
It might have been the year before, because Troy Smith, I thought, swept everything. But
either way,
he was a great college quarterback.
You lost to a NFL
and Samardzija, who was a beast, and Rema McKnight.
The whole team was better. But you lost to a Maxwell Award winner, first round quarterback in the NFL, versus a team that completed one pass. That's why it's worse.
Yeah, and a team that was off the rails too. I would say the one it's comparable to was the Illinois loss in 19. That was like, to me, kind of the death nail. And I loved Antonio, but that was kind of the death nail there for that regime.
Yeah.
But at least that team did make a bowl game, I believe. So, they squeaked by Rutgers. Yeah. It is so bizarre, man, that I seem to know way more about Michigan State football history than probably any Michigan fan in this. Well, because I grew up around here.
You grew up there.
Yeah.
We're rent-free in your heads. Because if you know anything about the rival,
what's weird?
Comment on
I'm surprised I don't get that tweet more often.
Because people like you. I get that shit all the time. If I point out the Michigan score, rent-free, I actually block people now. I'm not kidding. Mm-hmm. If you say rent-free, I'm blocking you.
It's lazy.
But I block every lazy take now, and my feed is so much better for it. And then people will say, "Oh, he's soft." Yeah, you hurt my feelings saying rent free. No, it's definitely not that you're just annoying and you're poisoning my feed. Not with toxicity, but with stupidity and lack of originality.
It's not unhealthy to cut people that just add nothing to your life out of your life. Like I don't view you as being insulted by it. No, I go through the same thing, and I'll be vague here, but there was, I had a bit of a freak out about a month ago, and I was texting you about. I'll move beyond it, but it's just like, but you know what I mean, where it's like some people say shit about you, and it's like, dude, like do I suck at my job? It wasn't bad. Okay?
It couldn't be that memorable. I don't even remember what you're talking about.
I'll tell you off there, but it's just like where it's just like you feel like shit about it, and you're like, am I doing the wrong thing? The stuff that just happens. But yeah, no, I'm with you, man. Before I head out, because I don't know if you have anything else to.
No,
to
we're
cover.
good.
I could talk to you all day, man. Because the thing I don't have a show anymore. My show is my Twitter Spaces. That's what I do, and then my post game videos. I just want to give a little plug to the company I work for. Now you look at the followers that Dave has. It's not I'm not exactly.
I knew you were coming on here to plug your little upstart.
This little podunk, mom and pop shop.
I knew there's an ulterior motive.
But truly, and we all break free here for a second. There's been some stuff that's come out lately, and I really want to let people know who are watching, whether they're on the fence, and some of them are just never going to buy into it. I love the company I work for, and I've been surrounded by amazing people, and a lot of people get butthurt when I say that these people are my best friends, which is like weird. Like, why does that matter to you?
Put it on the list of weird gripes.
Yeah. But like, there's so many, we could do an entire show of me just telling Barstool stories, Omaha and going to Indy and that stuff. So, support us, support what we do. I don't know what we're doing for the Michigan Ohio State game, especially with it being Thanksgiving weekend. But good vibes there, man. Good vibes. I love working there. I mean, it's, I get all sentimental now, but I remember you had me on your show 2020 and my hair was all disheveled because it was COVID. So I hadn't had it cut. And I remember you went back and you watched the show and you texted me and you went, "Do you hate me?" And I went, "No, I don't." And basically I said, "I'm just pretty miserable."
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't that. And I always felt bad about it. And not to say that things are great or perfect, but let's be real, man. My life's changed a lot, and so to be here with you doing this, the only downside is just the drive. But beyond that, like, I love doing this with you. I really do, and I think that you're doing a phenomenal job here. And when I see, even how I'm busy, when I see that you get a guest on here and you're doing your thing, it makes me proud of you. And I think I told this story before, but the first time I was on here, I was still in college. I was terrified. And then you ended up paying for my gas. And I'm like, that's a very nice thing to do for a college kid. So, yeah, no, I will do this. If the timing is right, I will do this with you anytime. I mean, yeah, I gotta head back, but I could do this anytime, man. So I truly, and I was talking to my family about this last night. I very much appreciate your friendship, and I appreciate the job that you do. So,
no, thank you. I'm right back at you.
Yeah,
I mean, I like saying I'm your friend first now, but I was a fan of yours before I knew you.
You were, because I'll be honest, I at the time, and I'm not going to go into the past. I was under the assumption I was just going to be the yelling guy. That's probably the thing I'm proudest of, is there's been this weird transition where I've gone from this is the guy who just rants about the Tigers to like, this guy's he kind of knows what he's talking about.
That was a topic. I'd have to go back and watch it. When the first time you were here, I asked you, is it frustrating because you clearly have chops that you are often dismissed as that? That dismissal doesn't take place. Maybe it does. I have not read that.
Not anymore.
I haven't seen that even once in 2 years.
It's gone beyond that. And now, of course, I still get pissed. But it's a genuine thing because it's. I think the way I view it is, how do you pop off on the internet? Well, you just make more noise than anybody else. Well, it's not true. Like, I think that what we do at our company has proven that. And to be around and did the traveling I've done has been insane. Like I don't fucking barely read books, but one day I'll write a book about the ways that some of the stuff has gone on since I've been working at Barstool. So support our stuff. It's a beautiful company filled with beautiful people, and there's always time for the Spiro Avenue show, and I promise you.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you, and thank you sincerely for that. And I have always said I'm like kind of indifferent on Barstool, other than you and Brandon. I have no like negative opinion. It's always been kind of, I'm more of like a cowherd guy, and there's only so many media hours in the day.
It's one of those things where it's not for everybody, and
it's not even that it's not for me. It's just like,
no, I know,
I'm married to the couple guys like Bill Simmons and Colin Cowherd, and I'm like out of time.
But I'll be, and this will be my last point. I know we're running long, but like when I got the job, I remember you were incredibly proud of me. I'm going to get emotional here. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
And you sent me the champagne with the note that said you did it. But I was scared because I'm like, what if I suck? Like, what if they don't like me there? And the truth is, Michigan, I'm 27 and I know a lot of people that live kind of far away now. And, I'm shitty with this, and we've talked about it with my responses to stuff, with me to you, with me to Anthony, and it's a bit of a drive, but I really want to promote what we do there because it gets a little lonely. I got my four windows in the basement, 4 walls in the basement, and my Family Guy flag and my Star Wars flag, and then sometimes I'll get a text from you or Anthony or Mitzi. This is for the Barstool people out there, or Megan or Clem, and it's like, keeps you going. And one day we're gonna move beyond that, and we're gonna see where it goes. But thank you for what you've done for me, and regardless of where anything else goes beyond here, don't forget that. I genuinely love you and love what you've done for my life and the way you've talked me up. So I'm going to shake your hand right now.
Oh, you got it. Well, and after I'll give you a hug, but
of course, yes. And thank you to Ben, by the way, who originally, you know what? Shout out to Ben. Ben is one of the ground zero Castellani fans. We met at O'Kelly's, I believe, 2017. So this is going back a ways. So yeah, I sorry to keep you long. I mean, you got more important pressing things doing. You got wife and kids, which right now is a foreign concept for Chris Castellani. But that's but yeah, just thank you, man. Thank you.
Everything you said right back at you, and if I can send you a text to give you fuel, man, happy to do that. But or to fuel up your emotional spirit. But
we're gonna get there. We're gonna be all right.
Yeah, you're fine, and you're just the best. And we said repeatedly before you landed in the dream job, and I tweeted one of the clips a few months ago. It's like this just matter of time.
Yeah, that one got to me. That one, and then me. Now here's this has been a 99% perfect show.
What did I get wrong?
You still haven't seen West Side Story.
Wait, that's not a wrong take. That's just
but I told you to do it. I told you to do it. That's the remake, by the way, for the people out there.
Oh yeah,
you've seen the original a million times.
Oh,
but that's the one. If that's the worst thing you got going for you for this show, you did a pretty goddamn good job.
I'll have the full book report on your desk.
We'll have to. We're gonna do an off the curb. And it's just it might be your least watched episode of all time of Castellani trying to do a thesis about how the remake of West Side Story is better than the original.
Hey, you and I can watch it back in 5 years and we'll enjoy it. Chris Castellani,
exactly.
You're the best, man. Barstool Sports.
Thank you so much. Love you. Viva la Stool. Appreciate it, man.
Love you, Chris. Love you, Ben. Love you, Eric at home.
Great job, Ben.
Hey, this was our 4th show in 2 days, so we're done for a couple days, but we'll try to sneak in one more. I am working on Tyson Walker. The most demanded guy, I understand it. Tyson Walker's a hell of a player.
After that Villanova game,
people,
too, especially.
I get so many, when are you getting Tyson Walker DMs, texts, and just replies and stuff? I think we're close. So working on that.
We didn't get into basketball, but right now,
it's a happy day. You guys stink. You stink.
I'm not going there yet, but I'm concerned. But no, I'm talking for state.
Oh, we're great.
That might be a very vindicated take on my part, because I tweeted about 3 weeks ago, this is the second weekend team, and people thought I was crazy. This team's good.
I had no idea what to think. I had no take, which was a cop-out.
They're good. We'll talk about it more off the air about why I felt that way, because, Jesus, man, there's only so much show. But yeah.
I'm in for that conversation.
Yeah, no, we'll talk about it in a second. But thank you, man. Thank you, everybody. Love all of you. Thank you.
Go Buckeyes. Sorry, Chris. Spiro.